Welcome to the Live Like Eden podcast. I'm your host, Lindsay, and I'm thrilled that you're here. Years ago, out of nowhere, I found myself in a radical shift in consciousness that took me over 20 years to fully wrap my head around. Yes, that's right. It took me a long time, and without any warning, down the rabbit hole of darkness I went. Now I'm here to share with you all the insights of awakening, spirituality, health, the energetic world we're living in, and my absolute favorite topic, just how crazy the ego mind can be. These subjects are designed to help you understand the awakening process, to open your mind, and prepare you for your own unique spiritual journey toward inner peace. So I invite you to sit back, relax, and enjoy today's discussion. Before we get started with today's show, I want to share with you something I've been working on. I have created a quiz just for you to see where you are on your own unique spiritual path. Everybody loves a quiz, right? You can go to my website at livelikeeden.com, click on the quiz pop-up, and answer 10 quick questions. You'll get an immediate response emailed to you with your results, a personalized podcast playlist including 5 Live Like Eden episodes that will offer you assistance where you currently are. And I've also thrown in a few bonus episodes that you'll receive a few days later. If you're a spiritual junkie, you're in the midst of awakening, or you're simply curious where you might be in your own spiritual process, check it out and feel free to share with your friends who might be interested too. Welcome back to the show. I hope you all are enjoying beautiful weather wherever you are. We've just started actually getting heat, and I'm thrilled, finally. Funny story, my husband comes in the other night. It's probably around 8:30. It's starting to get a little dark out, and he comes in and tells me the neighbor is vacuuming his grass. Like using a shop vac and just sucking up, I don't know what, in the grass. His grass looks amazing all the time. He's one of these people that loves working in the yard, so his yard is pristine. And he probably gets really irritated when our yard is not up to par with his. But it was just hysterical to me. I thought, wow, look at the mind just going in the grass and sucking. I don't know what he's pulling up. There is literally nothing in the grass except perfect, pristine, like a fairway, like a golf course fairway. Anyway, thought you'd get a kick out of that. It's always fun to laugh. And I find life can be quite comical when we just lighten up. Let's shift gears today from the last 2 episodes, really talking about the body and health and how to implement some very simple things into your life to feel better. Let's get back to the fundamentals of this show, which is really about your connection to spirit and the purpose of awakening in general. Like this whole show was birthed because of a process that I went through that lasted years that really stripped down everything I thought to be true. Everything in my life was just dissolved. Not physically, but my identity as a person just felt as if everything went away. So I want to get into this today because it seems to me there should be more information about this process, which most people, if they hear about it, what do you mean awakening? What are you talking about? Is that possible? You can have all these really bizarre physical and mental symptoms and it's like a thing? You're not crazy? And the answer is yes, it's actually a very natural process. You can look back into ancient cultures and how they break it down. And it's sort of this rite of passage into stepping into your spiritual self. And this is about breaking the illusion that we believe that we are all here in this separated world from the Godhead or God, whatever terminology you want to give it. It really doesn't matter at the end of the day. Whatever you're comfortable with, whatever resonates with you. Let's first talk about the call to undo this whole thing, or is the call to spirit. If any of you ever experienced something where you felt like you were literally being summoned or called, but you had no idea what it was or what was happening or what was going to happen next. Let's break this down a little bit. And then let's look at what the purpose of awakening would be in general is to recognize that we've been listening to the wrong teacher, meaning the ego. And we talk about this a lot on the show, but let's look at it a little bit deeper. And then lastly, I want to talk about how every single encounter in your life, big or small, it doesn't matter, is really a call to spirit. It's a call to recognize that you have a decision to make with who you see this life with. The brainwashing, manipulative ego, or the calm inner peace and tranquility, the non-judgmental side of spirit with a capital S, or you could call it the self, the true self with a capital S. Again, language isn't really relevant, but we need it in order to communicate while we're here. Before I get started with this topic, there's going to be a two-part series. I want to first talk about the purpose of awakening, what it is, and give it a little bit more insight. And then next episode, I'm going to follow up with how that can happen. What are some of the feelings, emotions, symptoms, physically or mentally, things that might hint that you're going through some kind of deeper transformation or shift in your own consciousness. But before all that, I want to spend today talking about the purpose of awakening. What does it mean? This whole call to undo this whole thing. And as A Course in Miracles would say, it's to undo the entire world, not just you, everything, and return home to the Godhead. In order for us to return, it seems necessary for an undoing or unraveling process to begin. Now, maybe this has been happening to us for lifetimes. Maybe we've been undoing everything for a really long time. I don't really know. I get the sense that we've all been here and done this many times over. Do you ever feel like that? I feel like I've done this before. It's kind of like deja vu when you have a moment where you go, I literally have had this happen before. Like, what is that? It's so interesting. I look at it kind of like, well, it's a little bit of a wake-up call that, hello, yes, you have done this over and over and over. If the Holy Spirit or Spirit is here as our gentle reminder to wake us up and get us to return and see clearly, return home and see clearly, then breaking down the illusion is going to be the method that happens. If you look up awakening, you look up symptoms, there's a lot of it that sounds really wonderful. And it is, it can be really wonderful. But there's also a lot of it when you are breaking away beliefs, emotions, feelings, things that you thought to be true, not only in the world, but about yourself and about the whole big picture. That can be devastating. And it can send you into a period of unease. There's a very real unsettling process that happens. If more and more people would know and have information about what this process looks like, kind of like what the ancient cultures did, right? They had a shaman or some elders in the tribe that would recognize a person going through it, and they'd be able to be there, supportive, allow the process to unfold, but they were in a very nurturing, helpful space to allow that to happen. Today, that's not the case, right? If you suddenly start feeling your awareness shifting, maybe you're starting to see differently, maybe you're starting to feel differently, and what happens, you kind of panic a little bit, like, I can't even believe this is happening. When this happened to me years ago, there was very strange things happening in my body. I would feel energy moving through the system, and I'd never experienced that before, so it was alarming. My nervous system was alarmed, and I could never describe the symptoms very well because they just didn't fit into anything I'd ever heard of. So I spent a lot of time thinking, this sounds crazy. If I say this out loud, it just sounds bizarre. And it does. And I can see why people would think it's bizarre. Before any of that happened to me, I would be like, what? What are you talking about? But I'm also a person that gets curious about things, and I'd be like, tell me more about that. I want to hear all about it. And then there's people, though, it's so weird that they aren't comfortable with it. If you've ever had something strange happen and you say it to the wrong person, they kind of look at you and just kind of move away. It might be a little threatening to their own ecosystem, right? So if you've ever felt this call, it doesn't have to be something major. It could be a very subtle thing that happens where all of a sudden you're like, I have to go do this. Or I'm really feeling a pull to get into something completely different in my life, or I'm feeling like this is not where I need to be. I feel like I need to contact this person and I have no idea why. There's a number of scenarios that I could say here, but you know what I'm talking about. There's a deeper pull within you, like within your spirit, not physically. It's in your energy, and it's pulling you towards something, and you have no idea where, but you just know. It's a very strong feeling. It's a very strong intuition that something is going to happen, or there's something I'm going to be learning, or there's some place I'm being pulled and it's just taking over. And then this could be a call to spirit. This could be a call to this very interesting awakening process. The process of breaking down the conditioning of our minds and understanding that I'm not really the mind. If I could see my thinking mind, then what am I? If I'm pulling back away from the mind and I'm able to watch my thoughts, and if I'm able to discern or question those thoughts, there's something larger behind the thinking apparatus. If you're somebody who gets caught in your thought, if you get caught up in listening to the dictator in your head, and this is for everybody, we all do this on some level. Some people a little bit more than others. Like I can imagine my neighbor could not get it out of his head that there was some leftover leaf particles or excess grass from the lawnmower that he needed to go vacuum it up. I don't know. I'm just using it as an example. The mind will just continue to spin until you grab a hold of it and continue the cycle. Now, the mind is amazing because it is how we operate as a human being in this world. But when it starts to go off the rocker, it goes way out there. And if you aren't aware of it, this is why you see the world the way it is, why we lose it sometimes, why we can't stay stable. Many people just can't seem to control their own mind and recognize that they're not really their thinking mind. And there's a choice to be made. Awakening's purpose is to show you this. You have a choice. You are not such a victim of the world that you don't have a choice in how you choose to see. It doesn't mean you're all powerful. It can do everything in the world. That's not what it means. Awakening is showing you the exact opposite. It's showing you that you've been believing in the external so much that you've forgotten what's already within you. And that would be the ability to discern and see that you have a choice to make from whether or not you're going to choose the ego or you're going to choose your spiritual self. I've mentioned this before in other shows in the past. There's a lot of talk out there about you're awakening and you're becoming this more powerful person kind of a thing, right? You're going to be able to do whatever you want and manifest your dream life. There's nothing wrong with any of that. Living in the world, you might as well live a happy dream than a miserable one, right? But it's important to differentiate what that is and what awakening is. What I just mentioned is how the ego slips in and feels the desire to make everything and control everything the way that it wants to, right? The ego is a control freak. It needs everything to be in this little box and look a certain way. Look at your own mind. Look at your own life. See where you are wanting everything to be a certain way. The purpose of awakening is to shift everything from the external into the inner world and your communion, that connection to spirit, which is ultimately going to take us home to the Godhead, into the world of no separation. This is a world of duality, and it appears very separate. And metaphysics says it is not. But even in metaphysics, right, it's something that's unseen. Is that a symbol to take us back to reality with a capital R? If you've had something in your life happen, and all of us do, at some point in this journey in the world, shit happens, right? All the time. If enough of it happens, it will eventually make you question, what is going on here? What is the purpose behind all of this? You could come up with a million purposes for the world. You could ponder and think about all the different reasons that you're here. And it seems like we're all destined to play a certain role. We're all playing roles on the stage of life. And sometimes those roles change, don't they? Given the period of life that you're in, your role may change. You know, we all play different roles as children. We grow up, we're out on our own, we're deciding how we're going to live and survive in the world. All these things happen. And you might have a different purpose at different stages of your life. From another vantage point of what is the big picture here, what is the purpose of awakening? And it's really breaking away the illusion. The whole point of it is to see it for what it is, that this is not what we think it is, that our real home, and as A Course in Miracles says, the only reality is God. So we are simply believing that we separated from that and we're off running our own program, right? I mean, it's kind of like The Matrix. Any of you who've watched the series, it's kind of interesting. We're all just little programs running around. Now, some people would say, oh, we're all in a computer simulation. Well, whatever, maybe, but it's really that ego mind that's created the separation in the first place. Whatever you believe the world is or what it's doing, I always go back to that original split. It's still a belief that we're separate from the whole. Keep it simple. You could make awakening so complicated, and it doesn't have to be. And that's one of the reasons I do the show. That's one of the reasons that I talk about simplicity so much, is to get out of the overcomplicated thinker, because that's what the ego wants us to do. It wants us to make this whole thing some huge complication. And Spirit is sitting there saying, hello, no, it's actually very simple. You're just believing in the wrong teacher, you know? And then it starts to feel lighter. It starts to feel accessible, that I could reach within and connect spiritually with no matter what is going on in the physical world around me. I can't stress that enough. So many times we hear that we have to make the world a certain way and try to perfect it. How many of you have a perfectionist thinking mind where everything's got to be a certain way, and if it's not, you're miserable? I tell my kids something all the time. Why be miserable when you can be happy? You know, I mean, why dwell on this little thing over here and let it ruin you, literally ruin your day, when you can choose peace? So now, having said all this, looking a little deeper at the call, when you start feeling there's something else going on here, I'm not sure that anything in the world is going to do it for me. Like when you start researching and getting into different things, whether it's consciousness or different pathways that people take to wake up to their spiritual essence, and everybody's got their method, right? There's a lot of methodologies, but the reality is you're going to have your own unique way. Everyone does. Nobody's path is going to look exactly the same as someone else's. And I want you to think about that, because you can get very fixated on what awakening should or should not be. It doesn't have to be anything. It doesn't actually matter what it looks like physically, because the point of it is to flip the whole thing upside down and go within, listen to Spirit, and return home. Simple. And whatever that looks like for you. It doesn't matter what physical scenario you get thrown into at all, because the choice is always there and it's always sitting with you. So now that we talked about that call to the undoing process and really breaking down the purpose of awakening, to wake up from everything and return to the Godhead. Again, simple. Let's now look at all we've really ever been doing is listening to the wrong teacher, which is the ego. As A Course in Miracles teaches it, it's not just your little thinking mind ego. The ego is referred to as the entire universe, the ego thought system. The ego created a separated illusion. That's the way that the Course interprets it. So when I say we're going to break down the illusion, we're talking about breaking down everything we believe. That's a lot. That's a lot of things that we grab a hold onto in this world. How many of you have really strong beliefs or opinions about things in the world? Maybe you have a really strong feeling to fight justice, or you have a very strong religious belief, or whatever your beliefs are. This all stems on right and wrong. What do you believe to be true? What do you believe to be false? Good versus evil. That one's my favorite. Well, that guy over there is evil and these people are good. I mean, people make decisions in life, right? They can make good ones or bad ones. But in the large scheme of things, is that a design by the ego thought system to just keep us trapped, going back and forth, pinning against one another, living in that duality, and continuing to take the bait? We're continuing the looping cycle all the time, over and over and over. The whole entire world is a cycle. I mean, you can see it in the seasons. You see it in getting up every day. The time clock, a cycle, over and over and over. And you could say, well, we're really going somewhere. We're really headed forward. You always hear a lot of politicians saying, we're going to make progress. It's like, where are we going? You know? I mean, really, when you look at it, where are we going? We're all still here in the dream. We're all still here in the conditioned world, no matter what you're doing. And yes, it can appear that you're making changes that are better. I could say it like that. But that's somebody's opinion. And that's what I mean when I'm saying, how many opinions do you have? How many things do you hold on to in your mind? And as the awakening process begins, what's going to happen? All of those things that you're holding on to in the world, all the beliefs that you feel so strongly about are going to start to what? Fizzle. And this can create a sense of depression or a sense of, oh, gosh, it's devastating to yourself, to the identity that you believe to be there. And it can be a very dark period. It can be very difficult, but that would be normal. It would be extremely normal. I would actually say that if it wasn't shocking you or it wasn't devastating on some level, and you're just kind of going there, that would be rare, because when this process starts, you don't realize how attached you are to your identity, to everything you thought to be true, to the world itself, to your friends and family, everything around you. You don't realize it until it starts to what? Dissipate, crumble, breaking free. Till the walls start to come down, then you see it. Then you know how much you've been believing in a system that may or may not be true. So that's kind of the reality of it. And I say that bluntly because I can't tell somebody that it's all kumbaya, because it isn't. You know, it's not. I would love to hear more voices talking about the reality of the difficulty. Not that we need to dwell on it and that it's going to be like that forever, but when people are literally going through that challenging time, that we could be supportive and make sure that they know that it's actually very normal, that they don't have to feel crazy. They don't have to feel like they can't share it with somebody else. But we have no infrastructure for that right now. And I'm trying to change that a little bit and bring information forward to help people, to help any of you listening who might suddenly go through something that seems a little off. Your consciousness is shifting. You're not seeing the way you used to, and you're thinking you're going nuts, right? You think you're going crazy sometimes. Again, the mind is very tricky, and the ego has a masterful strategy. Every single time you question anything, the ego's going to try to sneak back in there and lure you back. It just does. And then when you see that, you know, oh, there it is. Look at that. Look at how easily that happened. I was breaking free, and then all of a sudden, boom, I'm right back in the cell. You know, it's like back and forth, teeter-totter, until eventually it's like, no, I don't need to believe that nutty system anymore. I really don't. Because it's a roller coaster ride. It's a real roller coaster when you're believing in that thought system. And what's funny about the ego, right? Let's talk about this for a second, because the ego is very calculated. One of its main objectives is to protect itself. So that's why you always see attack. People get angry, upset, and project everything out onto the world or someone else or even themselves. Sometimes they take it out on their own identity. It doesn't really matter. It's still a protection. And it's a protection because of the fear of its dissolution or its dissolving, or that it doesn't exist. Once you see that and you see it in yourself, it becomes easier to realize that you don't have to listen to it anymore, that you can actually start seeing it for what it is and understand it a little bit more. Understand that, oh, that makes sense. I'm trying to protect myself because I'm really just not wanting to become whole again. I like living in the separation. And some part of us loves it. We get attention that way, don't we? The more drama we have, we can get a lot more attention. You know. Anyway, when you see the ego continue to spin this dream of separation, of fear, of the false identity, and it just keeps continuing over and over again, especially when we reinforce it all the time. This would be the Course in Miracles definition of insanity, when you repeat something over and over again. It's brilliant in the ego's perspective, but it's not when we're looking at it from the Holy Spirit or Spirit. It's delusional that we continue to go in these cycles and continue to have these patterns over and over again. So awakening's purpose is to get us out of the cycle, to break free from the pattern. And the only way to do that is to recognize that the ego has been playing games, that I've been believing in it the entire time. And now I know that there's an ability to choose another way. There is the Holy Spirit and Spirit sitting right there. I can just choose to see through wiser eyes that nothing I see in front of me is what I think it is. This will shift you out of needing the physical world to be a certain way. You can see why we all get so unhappy in the physical world, because nothing goes accordingly in the physical, right? It really doesn't. I mean, maybe we get to a place where suddenly things are smooth and peaceful, and then bam, something comes and blows it up, whether it's a person or a government or, on all the different levels. The reality is the dual world will always be the dual world. The world of opposites will always do its thing. If you can start turning your attention inward, and this does not mean that you check out of your responsibilities in the world, or that you don't live your life like a normal person, but you now have this multitasking ability. You are now multitasking with spirit. And as you see what happens in front of you, you can notice there's the ego doing its thing, and I don't have to listen to it. And I'm going to choose to relax and let things unfold as they need to. This is a simpler way to live. It's a more relaxed life. And the gateway to peace is right there, opening up that door into inner peace. That's where awakening is pulling you. Things are not what you think they are. When you are believing in the ego's dream of separation, and I mean the separation from the Godhead, when you're believing in this whole story of life, and it really is a story. Everybody has a story. Think about your own personal life. It's a story. You could sit down and share what you've been through in your entire life. And when you think about your own personal journey, think about the moments where you were questioning what was happening to you, or you were questioning the situation you were in. You were questioning. You weren't certain about any of it. Have you had moments like that? Have you had moments where things just don't seem right? Something is missing. I am not getting this. Maybe you've had something happen in your life that keeps happening over and over again. You keep attracting similar people into your life and they're not serving you. Maybe they're not nice to you. Maybe they're taking advantage of you, but you just keep bringing the same people into your life. And it's like, why is this happening? What am I doing that's bringing this into my life? Am I just not standing up for myself? Am I letting people do this to me? You get into this whole thing, but it's like a cycle until you break that, and then you break that, and it goes deeper and deeper and deeper until you get to this place of the whole illusion itself. Not just the little mini illusions that you have in your daily life and the beliefs and opinions that you have of things in the world. It takes you deeper down that rabbit hole, that the whole thing, the whole world is that separation that the ego is creating, and it's an illusion. And when you begin the awakening process, sometimes it actually feels unreal. It just all of a sudden starts to not feel solid anymore. When I went through my own process and had some very difficult physical things happen to me, I started to feel lighter in my physical body. I didn't feel the body like I used to feel it, which was alarming to me. Before, I would feel the body as a solid structure. I felt sound and really grounded and solid in it. But when this process happened to me, I had so much energy going through the system. I felt these incredible shifts happening, and I started to just feel lighter, or shall I say, not really connected to my body like I used to be. It's almost like I was being shown that you're not really the body. The body was still doing everything it normally did, which made it even more confusing to me. I eventually kind of got used to this feeling, and it's kind of remained with me ever since this happened, where the body is just, I feel it differently, almost as if I feel the energy of the body instead of the physicality of it, if that makes sense. But this really showed me maybe we're not really this body. Maybe there's more. And this started breaking down my illusion of the physical realm. So you can look in your own life and see, where is it in my own personal life that I've seen the breakdown? Where have I been granted an opportunity to see something differently? Where did my mind completely shift out of this patterning, cyclical nonsense into something deeper? When did that happen? So you can start seeing where this stuff is happening. Now we're going to transition into how every single encounter that you have in your life is a call to join with spirit. It really is. So you can think of all those moments in the past, and maybe they were sort of sporadically happening in your life. And now you can say, every moment is like this. I can make that choice every moment of every day if I choose to. Now, maybe sometimes you don't want to. I don't want to focus in on that. I just want to live. The more and more you do, you choose to see another way, the lighter and lighter you're going to feel. And eventually, you smile more. You might even laugh out loud. You start seeing things for the way that they are, and how worked up we get over the smallest things, right? Can you imagine? You're just so worked up about something. And if you step back, detach from the thinker, look with spirit from that calm, non-judgmental place and see it clearly, you might even say, wow, I'm really losing it there. I am literally freaking out about some excess grass in my grass that I need to go suck up with a vacuum, just to bring that back into the conversation. It could be anything. It could be something major or minor, but when the mind gets going, right, it just doesn't quit. And the point of awakening is to wake up from all that. To wake up from the need to attach to the thinker so much, to wake up and see that there is more than just the mind going in circles. Every encounter can be a call to spirit. For instance, you get up in the morning, you get ready for your day, you're going to work, and you need a cup of coffee. So you go and you wait in that Starbucks line. And it's so long. And there's a guy in front of you who ordered like 8 frappuccinos. And you start losing your mind. Oh, what is he doing? He shouldn't be allowed to order that much in the drive-thru. I have places to be. You know what's going on. The story's going. There goes the mind, protecting itself, attacking someone else all the time. That moment of frustration can be what? A call to calm down, a call to spirit. And you know that because you start losing your mind. When you start feeling that angst and frustration and anger, those emotions are just calling you to peace. So instead of thinking that all these emotions are so horrible, we love to say there's positive and negative and you don't want to have any negativity and blah, blah, blah. Maybe those emotions on any level are just communicating to you. Oh, I'm feeling frustrated. That's an opportunity to go in and choose spirit right now. Calm, go to peace. In your mind, you don't have to say this stuff out loud, but in your mind, you know that what you're looking at in front of you is really not what you think it is. It's really an opportunity to join with spirit within you and find the connection to calm so that anytime really crazy stuff happens in your life, because sitting in the line at Starbucks is not a big issue. It could be. I guess you could let it ruin your entire day. Well, I'm sorry I'm late. I had to sit in Starbucks and it was some guy with his Frappuccino order. You know where I'm going. This is exactly what people do every day. And it's kind of silly because you could have gotten up a little earlier and gotten in that line earlier. So think about all these things. The purpose of awakening is simply to remember home, to wake up from the dream. According to the Course in Miracles, it's to wake up and remember that you're already home in God. There is no separation. The more and more you emphasize the separation, the more you're siding with the ego. That's all. And you see the ego clearly in all the things that it does. It wants to keep you believing that you're a separate, special identity away from God. That's all it's doing. And it's keeping the dream alive. And the collective is buying into it. All of us, we're all doing it. And then every encounter in your life is always an opportunity to go within and choose spirit. You have a decision to make. And there's the real power. The power lies in the decision maker within you, that you can choose how you see any given situation. You do not have to let everything take over your life. You can work through situations much easier when you're in the calm. When you lose it, when you're running in circles with the ego mind and you're literally off the deep end, what happens? Life gets very difficult and you are miserable, right? When life is doing that, most of us would be in misery. But why be in misery when you can choose to be calm, at peace, happy, smiling more with spirit? It's not about reaching a certain state of bliss or nirvana in awakening. Maybe you can have some really amazing experiences, but remember, that is still just an experience. When you go deeper and deeper and deeper into the awakening process, there's actually no experience any longer. The identity has dissolved in such a way that there's nothing left to experience anything. You know what I'm saying? So you're doing something completely different. Awakening is different than building up and having more blissful, ecstatic experiences. It's an unraveling and undoing and breaking free from the illusion. So I hope this helps you with just more general understanding of the process, what's happening. And I hope you stay tuned for next week where I'm going to get into the actual things that can happen to you when you go through this process. So you don't want to miss it. Tune in and I'll see you all next week. That'll wrap up today's show. Until next time, I invite you to check out my website at livelikeeden.com. You can sign up for a weekly email reminder when my new podcast and blog comes out, which is every Wednesday. If you are struggling with your own awakening process and you need further assistance or guidance, you can also sign up for a free consult, and I would be more than happy to work with you. If you're enjoying the show, I ask that you share it with others that you think it might benefit. Until next time, thank you so much for listening.